This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
Hey, welcome back. Jonathan Clark. We're in the studio with a guy. Well, he's won Emmys and Golden Globes and SAG Awards. The list goes on and on. You know him from TV shows like 24, Designated Survivor, legendary films like Stand By Me, A Few Good Men, A Time to Kill, Flatliner, so many more. He's got a new album called Reckless in Me. He's on tour, and all the tour dates, KieferSutherland.net. And here he is, the man himself. Kiefer, welcome, man. Great to have you in here.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Absolutely. First question, it's a very important one. Are you watching country music on PBS? I'm sure you've heard about it.
I have, actually, and I haven't watched it yet because I haven't been home.
Right.
But I can't wait to see it. And Ken Burns is such a great filmmaker.
Oh, my God.
His stuff on the Civil War, World War II,
Vietnam,
the Vietnam
yeah.
conflict. He's an incredible filmmaker, and he has such a unique insight into history. And you can really tell one of his films apart from others. And so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
You're going to love it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So good. I thought of that because I knew I was going to interview. I thought of that immediately when I started watching it. I was like, I got to ask Kiefer that. He's going to love that. This is a fantastic album. This is your second album.
Thank you.
2016, you released Down in a Hole. And you have a label with Jude Cole.
Yeah.
And we were speaking about him before we started the interview. It's called Ironworks. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's not named after the barbecue place in Austin, is it?
No, we saved ourselves a couple $1,000s in legal fees because the studio that we built was in a building that was an iron forgery, and we cleaned it up and
where is
obviously
that?
changed it. It's in East Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so to save some money, we just left the title of the building as it was, which was called Ironworks,
Yeah.
and that became our label.
And that's funny because I remember Jude Cole as an artist, and now he is your partner in a label, an established producer, obviously. The next question, was the music always inside you growing up as a kid? I'm just having this vision of you being on TV sets, movie sets, with an acoustic guitar in the trailer or something like that.
Well, the guitar was always my best friend. From the time I was 10 years old to now, it's the thing that's gone with me everywhere. Speaking of Jude Cole, which was really funny, I met him when I was about 18, 19 years old, and he was such a brilliant guitar player. That for
Yeah,
the
he's
first,
tasty. I remember that.
Oh,
yeah.
God, he's so good. And for the first time I heard him play, and I put my guitar away and put it under my bed for about a year. But the truth is, I've always loved music as a fan. I've always loved playing. And when we had the label, there were so many great musicians coming in and out. And they were all writing, and they all had different styles. And I would kind of watch and finally found a style for myself to start writing. And then certainly through the years of doing 24, I wrote a lot. And I finally came upon a bunch of songs that I actually really liked. And I guess I finally got to a point in my life where I felt like I had something to say. And it took me a lot longer than most, you know.
Well, you were kind of busy.
But the truth is, I did really like the songs, and we put them down originally to give to BMI or ASCAP and see if another artist would want to do them. But we ended up really I loved what Jude did as a producer, and I loved the way he made the song sound, and then we just released the record, and I started touring, and that's when I realized I was in trouble because I fell in love with that so much. I love the band that I play with, incredible musicians, my best friends, and the touring ended up being, you know, if I had the choice between taking a vacation or going on tour, I would go on tour. And it's not for everybody, but it's something that I really enjoy, and everything kind of escalated from that point.
What was the first song you learned to sing or play on guitar?
I think the first song I ever learned to play was Operator, Jim Croce.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one.
And when I listen to your album, it's definitely country or it's Americana, but it's not like new country. Like I hear Waylon, Merle, Johnny Cash, artists like that, you know, with you wearing your influences proudly, say.
Well, that's an incredibly generous thing for you to say. But the truth is, if you're asking me what country artists I like, it's going to be Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, the original kind of old school, you know, bad boys of country music. They all left
Outlaws of-
they all left the comforts of Nashville. and the tradition of Nashville, and they started writing these incredibly personal songs about themselves, and in many cases not flattering. And I was so grateful for those songs, because every time I would screw up, I could put on a Johnny Cash song and I didn't feel as bad, you know. And Merle Haggard really is my favorite writer. And we had the pleasure of meeting Merle Haggard when we played in Bakersfield at the Buck Owens Crystal Palace like 7 years ago.
Wow.
And he was one of the most generous guys I've ever met in my life. I was talking to him for less than 20 minutes, and he was trying to give me a guitar. And he invited us to go out on the road with him, and was just so generous. And then tragically, 3 weeks later, he passed away.
Oh, man.
But as a writer, when you think of a song like Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down, that song is so incredibly simple when you play it, right? Then go try and write a song like that, and that's when you realize the craftsmanship. It's so hard to write a song like that. And so the guys you mentioned, absolutely. They told these amazing stories. And unlike and I love so many different genres of music, but country music tells stories. When I go to listen to a Led Zeppelin song, there's 14 different interpretations of that song. When I listen to Johnny Cash sing A Boy Named Sue, there is no interpretation. It's what it is.
It's a little bit different than a bustle in a hedgerow. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
And so what I love about acting is being able to get together with a group of actors to tell a story. And what I love about music is being able to write a very direct, linear line, and getting together with a bunch of musicians, figuring out what's the best way to tell this story.
Who's the legendary country artist who said 3 chords and the truth?
3 chords and the truth.
Jimmy Rogers. I don't know who it was. Hank Williams, maybe. I don't know.
I would think Hank Williams certainly would deserve it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of legendary kind of artists that you were just talking about, Waylon Jennings. I saw your show at Irving Plaza, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was that Shooter Jennings on keyboards with you at Irving Plaza?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. But I promise you, Phil, who was on keyboards, will love that you said that.
But tell me about Shooter, because I know you've done things with him, right?
Well, I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his. I love his playing style. He's not very orthodox, very rarely uses a pick. He's all feel. And anytime you see a player that embodies that the instrument and the voice, it's all an extension of who they are. I'm deeply respectful of, and he's certainly one of those guys.
I read that at one point you were a competitive cowboy on the United States team roping championship circuit. There was a lot of traveling around in a pickup truck, and a lot of listening to country music radio stations around the country.
That was my first real exposure to country music. And I was in my late 20s, traveling around with 2 guys, Steve Gilson and John English, both incredible cowboys. It was one of the best times of my life, and we would just go from town to town, rodeoing and drinking and all of it. But it was interesting. So I was listening to country music radio, which was playing at that time kind of George Strait, and Randy Travis and
Gatlin Brothers.
Yes, and that kind of music. And then what they were listening to kind of on cassette was the Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings. And so I got a great mix of the two. And as we all know, songs start to inform the time. And so I ended up loving those songs because they became part of the memory of me hanging out with these guys that I really, just had a blast with. And this time traveling across the country in a way that I had never done before.
Kiefer Sutherland is with us. His new album is Reckless in Me. He's on tour. All the tour dates, KieferSutherland.net. You've said that doing these 2 records and writing these songs and recording them is really telling stories. And considering what your other job is, it's got to be sort of symbiotic, I would think,
Well, they're absolutely connected. Again, what I love about acting is being able to tell a story. The difference is, and it took me a while to actually realize this, but the stories that I get to tell as a singer-songwriter are mine. They're personal. And so, on my best day, I'm not Jack Bauer.
Yeah.
And most people would know me through a character like that, but it's a character. when I get to sing a song like Song for a Daughter, I wrote that to my daughter for her to know how much I loved her when I'm long gone, and that she would have that forever and always. So that's a very personal moment. And so once I actually embraced that, because as an actor, I mean, you try to keep your privacy. I've spent 30 years trying to keep my privacy, and all of a sudden you're writing songs that make you more vulnerable and are right out there. Once I embraced it, the writing actually became cathartic in a way. And the thing that I've always been so shocked about, and we've played close to 400 shows in the last 4 or 5 years, I never expected the audience to be as generous as they have been. And that's been one of the most moving experiences that I've ever had. And so it took a leap of faith, but my gosh, was it rewarded?
Yeah.
And
well, I think, we've had a lot of artists in here on this show, and I'm always fascinated by when an artist writes a song and the lyrics and the melody, and then they go out on tour and say people in other parts of the world know the lyrics to the song and sing them back to the guy that wrote them.
Yeah.
That's got to be a rush, man.
Well, it's actually a much more scary moment than you would imagine, because when we started touring, no one knew the music. So if you screwed up, no one would know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time I was playing, I think, Not Enough Whiskey. And I was playing that song, and there was this kid in the front row, and he was singing every word back to me, and he scared the life out of me, because if I inverted the verses, or if I dropped a line, or if I got the line wrong, this kid was going to know. And so unfortunately for me, what should have been like a really rewarding moment just scared the life out of me. But every once in a while, if a crowd kind of sings back a lyric of yours, it's humbling more than anything, and you're just so grateful that people showed up in the first place. But
I saw that show at Irving Plaza. They were singing the lyrics back to you there, man. It was fantastic.
Well,
the new
you.
album has a deluxe version, and on the deluxe version there is a live concert from Berlin.
Yes.
So tell me about Berlin. What about that show made you want to include it in this package?
They do it once a year, and we got invited to play. Again, as I said earlier in the interview, I love the band that I play with, and they're so good.
They are. No, they are. You're right.
And I just wanted to be able to put a live record out of our show for two reasons. Our live show, we kind of pull the tempos up a little bit, so it's a little faster, a little more energy. And I just think the musicianship of these people, I was going to say guys, but our drummer's a girl, guys and girl, is extraordinary. And if someone ever listens to it and they like it, come on out and see a show.
There is a song on the new album, Something You Love. Tell us more about this song.
Something You Love was a song, Jude had written the chorus, and it really spoke to me. And it's basically, we've seen too many people over the course of our lives work too hard to take care of their family and their friends, and at the end of their life, they look back and they realize they didn't do anything for themselves. And it doesn't mean you have to change careers, but just find some time for you. And that really spoke to me. And he was struggling with the verses. He didn't like where he was going with them. And I said, man, that chorus speaks so much to me. Can I have a minute? And I'd like to write the verses. And I ended up writing them, pretty quickly. Certainly the first verse. And from there we went. And then I said, I'd really like to have that song for the album. And he gave it to me, and I was incredibly grateful for that, because the chorus was his and he started it. But it's a plea to people to take some time for themselves.
Right. Well, you were mentioning that you're completely unattached to all of your social media accounts or anything like that, and there's got to be something freeing about that,
Well, I'm attached to the media accounts in the sense that if I post something, it's my words and everything else. But I am the last guy I know, which is very ironic given how technically savvy Jack Bauer was. I don't have a computer. And I don't have a computer because I would watch the look on friends of mine's faces when I would ask them if they want to go grab a drink or go for dinner, and they would say, no, I got like 100 emails. And the second I started hearing that, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to get a computer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably the last guy that has to go shopping at a regular store because I don't know how to order anything else online. But other than that, I still don't have to answer the 150 emails a day.
There's a video for that song, Something You Love. You guys where was it? You're busking. You were like busking.
Yeah, it was in downtown Los Angeles, and it was a thing that Austin and I started doing actually in Europe. We'd often land in cities that we'd never been to before, and we were in a hotel and we were kind of warming up and getting ready for a show, and we're looking out the window and saw this incredible square in the middle of this kind of great, I think we might have been in Hamburg. And I said, well, why are we rehearsing here? Let's just go out and play. And so we did. We opened up the cases, and the only people that came to listen to us play were like kids from the park. I think we made like $8.
Deutschmarks? Any Deutschmarks in there?
No, they were euros, but
euros, right? Yeah.
But we made enough to buy a drink, and and so that became the way we would rehearse. Especially if we're in a new town, and we just go out, and it wasn't a big hassle, and we did it again in Cologne, and more people showed up, and so that just was a natural evolution to that's how we're going to do the video.
Well, we're going to play that song in just a couple here. You had mentioned that you're going to shoot a film. You're going to shoot a film in November or something?
I am.
Want
yeah.
to tell us about it, or?
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. It's an adaptation of The Fugitive, and it's being done for a new platform that will come out in March, I believe, called Quibi. And so the film will be broken up, and it will be tailored for this. 14 10-minute episodes, so you can watch it on the train when you're going to work on your phone, and they're going to have 7,000 titles. Steven Spielberg's doing something for them, and then about a year to a year and a half later, it'll go back to Warner Brothers, and then it will be put back in its totality and either released as a film or their streaming service or in the theaters.
That's a great idea, because 10 minutes, like, who doesn't have 10
minutes? Yeah, and
it's
and Jeffrey Katzenberg, it's his platform, and I've had the pleasure of working with him before. This is a guy who puts a lot of thought into things, and so I'm honored to be able to do something that's a part of the beginning of that platform.
Is 24 on Hulu? Do I have that right? Is it available on Hulu?
I'm nervous to confirm or deny.
Okay, all right.
But I do know that it's out there, and I have to say, 24 was the gift of a lifetime.
Dude, you're looking at like #1 fan. Okay,
well, thank you. It's certainly changed my life, and so anybody out there that ever watched 24, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And Designated Survivor, Netflix for a while, and then
we knew we were going to do the 3 seasons.
Right.
And that's what we had planned to do. And I liked the way it ended, and I had a wonderful time making the show. I mean, I love the cast. The cast was extraordinary. But that's what we had planned to do, was the 3 years. And we were very glad to be able to finish it with Netflix.
His name is Kiefer Sutherland. His new album, everyone should go out and get it, Reckless in Me. He's on tour, headed out to Europe, right, for an extended run, right?
We're gonna start off in Denmark, end up in the UK, do about 25, 30 dates, and then come back here, shoot that film, and then we're back out in December in the States,
fantastic.
Southwest.
Check out all the tour dates, KieferSutherland.net. I'm going to ask you a favor now. Can you say one thing for us before you leave, if you don't mind? Here it is. Drop the gun now.
I'm going to back off of your mic a little bit.
Okay.
Drop the gun now!
Kiefer Sutherland, thank you so much.
Bless your heart, man.
All right.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q104.3.